Chosen ones, if you're listening to this right now, it is not by accident, not by coincidence, and not because you were casually scrolling and happened to land here. Something in your spirit was nudged. Something deep inside you was stirred before your mind could even catch up. You felt it as a quiet pull, a sudden stillness, a sense that this message was meant for you and not for the masses. And that is because God is asking something of you immediately, not tomorrow, not when life becomes easier, not when everything finally makes sense, but now, in this very season, in this very moment of your life. You have already sensed that your life does not fit into ordinary patterns. You have tried to live like everyone else, think like everyone else, chase what everyone else chases, but something always felt off. You could succeed and still feel empty. You could be surrounded by people and still feel alone. You could be doing good things and still feel like you were missing the main thing. That restlessness is not confusion, it is calling. That dissatisfaction is not failure, it is direction. God placed something inside you that refuses to be satisfied with surface level living, and now He is asking you to respond. There is an urgency in the Spirit right now. You can feel it in how time seems to move faster, in how pressure has increased, in how old comforts no longer work the way they used to. God is not trying to overwhelm you, but He is trying to awaken you. He is asking you to stop delaying obedience, stop negotiating with His instructions, stop telling Him after this season or once I'm ready. Chosen ones are rarely ready when the call comes because readiness is built in motion, not in waiting. God is asking you to come back to alignment, not to religion, not to appearances, not to what people expect of you, but to Him. Somewhere along the journey, you learned how to function without fully surrendering. You learned how to pray without fully listening. You learned how to believe without fully trusting. And God, in His patience, allowed it for a time, but now He is asking for your full yes, not a partial commitment, not a conditional agreement, a full surrendered yes. There are things He has already spoken to you about that you have been avoiding, conversations you were supposed to have, habits you were supposed to break, environments you were supposed to leave, steps you were supposed to take that scared you because you couldn't see the full outcome. But chosen ones are not called to see the entire staircase, only the next step. Faith has never required full clarity, only obedience in the present moment. God is asking you to quiet the noise. You have been overstimulated, overinformed, and overexposed. Too many voices have been competing for your attention, and even good voices can become distractions when they replace God's voice. He is asking you to pull away, even if only temporarily, and create space for Him to speak again. Not rushed prayers, not distracted worship, real stillness, real listening, real intimacy. You may have noticed that certain relationships have become strained or distant lately. That is not accidental. God is shifting your circle to match your calling. Not everyone who walked with you can go where you are going. Some people were assigned to your process, not your purpose. Letting go does not mean dishonoring them. It means honoring what God is doing in you. God is asking you to release what no longer aligns, even if it feels familiar, even if it feels safe. There's also a healing God is asking you to allow. You have been strong for a long time. You have carried responsibilities you should not have had to carry. You learned how to survive when you should have been nurtured. And while your strength has kept you alive, it has also kept some wounds hidden. God is asking you to bring those wounds into His presence, not to shame you, but to restore you. You cannot carry the next level while bleeding from the last one. Chosen ones often mistake isolation as punishment, but sometimes isolation is preparation. God pulls you away so He can pour into you without interruption. He strips away external validation so you learn to recognize His approval. He allows silence so you learn to discern His whispers. What felt like abandonment was actually divine positioning. And now He is asking you to stop fighting the process and start trusting it. There is an assignment attached to your obedience. Something God wants to do through you that will impact others in ways you may never fully see. But the assignment requires purity of heart, clarity of mind, and courage of spirit. God is asking you to clean your inner house, to forgive where you have been holding resentment, to repent where you have compromised, to let go of pride disguised as independence. This is not about perfection, it is about availability. You have been asking God for signs, but He's been asking you for movement. You've been asking for confirmation, but He's been waiting for commitment. At some point, faith stops asking what if and starts saying even if I don't understand, even if it costs me comfort, even if I have to walk alone for a while, even if people misunderstand me. God is asking you to choose obedience over explanation. There is also a warning wrapped in love. Delayed obedience often turns into unnecessary struggle, not because God is punishing you, but because stepping outside His timing exposes you to battles you were never meant to fight. God is asking you to move now because He sees what you cannot see. He knows what is coming, and He is trying to position you ahead of. Trusting Him now is an act of wisdom, not blind faith. You may feel unqualified, but God has never called the qualified. He qualifies the called. Your past does not disqualify you. It proves God's grace. Your weaknesses do not scare Him. They invite His power. God is asking you to stop focusing on what you lack and start trusting what He supplies. When He chooses someone, He also commits Himself to sustaining them. Chosen ones, this season requires courage. Not loud courage, not performative courage, but quiet, consistent courage. The kind that gets up and obeys even when no one is watching. The kind that keeps showing up even when progress feels slow. The kind that trusts God's character when His methods don't make sense. God is asking you to walk by faith in a deeper way than you ever have before. There is also a call to intercession. God is asking you to pray, not just for yourself, but for others who don't even know how to pray for themselves right now. You have been through what you've been through because God trusted you with empathy, with compassion, with spiritual authority that comes from experience. Your prayers carry weight because they are forged in fire. Do not underestimate the power of your voice in the Spirit. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are right where you need to be to hear this call. God is not asking you to fix everything at once. He is asking you to take the next obedient step. One act of surrender. One decisio. End to trust. One moment of courage, one prayer that says, "Here I am, use me," and as you begin to respond, you may notice resistance increase. Distractions may multiply, doubt may get louder. That is not a sign you are doing something wrong. It is confirmation that you are moving in the right direction. The enemy does not fight what is not a threat. Stay focused, stay grounded, stay connected to God's voice above all others. God is asking you to remember who you are, not who life told you to be, not who trauma shaped you into, not who fear tried to shrink you into, but who He called you to be before you ever took your first breath. There is a divine identity awakening inside you, and it will require you to let go of old labels, old limitations, and old lies. This is not a call to rush, but it is a call to respond. Not with panic, but with reverence. Not with fear, but with faith. God is gentle, but He is also intentional. When He speaks with urgency, it is because what He is inviting you into matters deeply. He's asking you to trust Him enough to move, even when the path ahead is not fully visible, even when your emotions are still catching up, even when your circumstances haven't changed yet. And as you continue to listen, as you continue to lean in, as you continue to quiet yourself before Him, you will begin to sense that this request from God is not a burden, but an invitation, not a demand, but a divine partnership, not a loss, but a profound exchange where you lay do. WN what is temporary and step into what is eternal, where you release control and receive purpose, where obedience opens doors that striving never could, and where the next words God speaks to you will require your heart to remain open, your spirit to remain attentive, and your faith to remain active as He continues unfolding what He is asking you to do for Him in this moment, in this season, and in the unfolding journey that lies just ahead. Because what God is unfolding now is layered, intentional, and deeply personal to you. He is not asking you to become someone else. He is asking you to finally become who you were always meant to be. And that process often feels uncomfortable because it requires shedding versions of yourself that were built for survival, not destiny. You learned how to cope, how to adapt, how to endure. But now God is asking you to live, to lead, to trust Him beyond coping and into calling. There are moments lately when your spirit feels heavy for no obvious reason. You wake up tired, even after rest. Your thoughts wander back to questions you thought you had already settled. That is not regression. That is revelation pressing against the walls of your awareness. God is stirring what has been dormant. He is surfacing what has been buried. He is calling your attention to areas that need alignment before the next door opens. If He moved you forward without addressing these things, the weight of what's coming would crush you instead of elevate you. God, I'm asking you to release control in places where you've been gripping tightly. You learn to control outcomes because at one time chaos ruled your environment. You learn to plan every step because uncertainty once hurt you. But control, even when it feels responsible, can become a substitute for trust. God is not asking you to be careless. He is asking you to be surrendered. There is a difference. Surrender says, I will do my part and trust God with the rest, while control says, I will only move if I can guarantee the outcome. Faith lives in the space between effort and release. You have also been wrestling with timing. You keep wondering why things haven't happened yet. why prayers seem unanswered, why promises feel delayed. But God is not slow, He is precise. He does not operate on urgency driven by anxiety, but on timing rooted in wisdom. What feels like delay is often development. What feels like silence is often strategy. God is preparing not just the opportunity, but you, because mishandled blessing can become burden, and premature promotion can damage the very thing He intends to use you for. There are lessons God has been teaching you quietly, repeatedly, patiently. Lessons about humility, about patience, about discernment. You've learned that not every open door is God's door. You've learned that applause does not equal approval. You've learned that being chosen does not mean being celebrated. These lessons were not meant to discourage you, they were meant to refine you. Gold is not shaped in comfort, but in fire, and God trusts you enough to allow the fire to do its work. God is also asking you to guard your heart differently. You have been generous with access to your thoughts, your emotions, your plans. You have shared things prematurely with people who were not meant to carry them. Not everyone needs to know what God is doing in you while He is still doing it. Some things are sacred and require silence. God is teaching you discernment, not secrecy born from fear, but wisdom born from intimacy with Him. There is a sensitivity growing in you. You notice shifts in atmosphere. You feel when something is off, even if you can't explain why. That is spiritual awareness sharpening. Do not ignore it. Do not rationalize it away. God often speaks through unease, through holy discomfort, through gentle warnings that don't come with loud explanations. Learning to trust that inner prompting is part of what God is asking of you now. You may feel pressure to rush because others seem to be moving ahead, achieving milestones, reaching goals you once shared. But comparison is a thief of clarity. God's path for you is custom built. It does not need to resemble anyone else's journey to be valid. Some are called to visibility early, others are called to depth first. Depth sustains visibility. God is building something in you that will last, not something that will trend and fade. God is also asking you to revisit your definition of success. Why? Oh, you were taught that success looks like recognition, influence, stability, and outward achievement. But in God's economy, success is obedience. Success is faithfulness. Success is doing what He asked, even when no one claps, even when no one notices, even when the reward is not immediate. If you can learn to celebrate obedience as success, you will walk in peace regardless of external outcomes. There is a stretching happening in your faith. Things that once felt certain are being challenged. Questions you never asked before are surfacing. That does not mean your faith is weakening. It means it is maturing. Childlike faith accepts without questioning. Mature faith wrestles and still trusts. God is not offended by your questions. He invites them. What He is asking is that you don't let questions become walls that block intimacy. God is also asking you to forgive again, deeper this time. Not because the offense was small, not because the pain didn't matter, but because unforgiveness binds you to a past season. Forgiveness is not approval of what happened, it is release of its power over you. Every time you choose forgiveness, you reclaim a piece of your freedom. And God wants you free, not emotionally tethered to moments that were never meant to define you. There is a discipline God is inviting you into. Not punishment, not rigidity, but intentional rhythm. Time with Him that is protected, prioritized, and honored. Not squeezed into leftovers of your day, but given first place. When you align your schedule with your values, your spirit begins to breathe again. God is asking you to slow down enough to hear Him clearly, because clarity is often lost in constant motion. You may feel a pull towards something new, something unfamiliar, a desire to create, to speak, to serve, to step into territory you once felt unqualified for. That desire did not come from nowhere. God plants longings that align with purpose. Fear may try to convince you that it's unrealistic, impractical, or risky, but God often calls you into spaces where you must rely on Him daily, not on your own ability. God is also asking you to let go of guilt. Guilt for not knowing sooner. Guilt for choices you made when you didn't know better. Guilt for seasons you feel you wasted. Guilt does not come from God, conviction does. Conviction leads to change and restoration. Guilt leads to shame and stagnation. God is not asking you to relive the past, He is asking you to redeem the present. There is a strengthening happening beneath the surface. You may not feel powerful, but you are becoming resilient. You may not feel confident, but you are becoming anchored. You may not feel ready, but you are becoming prepared in ways you cannot yet measure. God often builds strength quietly so that when pressure comes, you don't crumble publicly. God is also asking you to speak differently to yourself. The words you repeat internally shape the atmosphere of your mind. If you constantly rehearse fear, doubt, and self-criticism, you will struggle to hear God's truth. Replace self-condemnation with curiosity. Instead of saying, I always fail, ask, what is God teaching me here? That shift opens space for growth instead of shame. You are entering a season where discernment will be more valuable than enthusiasm. Not every opportunity is an assignment. Not every invitation is alignment. God is asking you to pause before saying yes, to pray before committing, to listen before acting. Speed without direction leads to exhaustion. God's pace brings peace even when the work is demanding. There is also an invitation to trust God with your identity beyond titles and roles. You are not defined by what you do, how much you produce, or how useful you feel. You are defined by who you belong to. When identity is rooted in God, seasons of waiting do not shake you, and seasons of activity do not inflate you. God is asking you to rest in sonship, not strive for worth. You may notice that old temptations are resurfacing, old patterns knocking at the door. That is not because you are weak, it is because you are advancing. Resistance often increases right before breakthrough. God is asking you to stay alert, to stay prayed up, to stay honest about your vulnerabilities. Strength is not pretending you don't struggle. It is choosing God in the middle of the struggle. God is also asking you to remember what He has already done. Gratitude anchors faith. When you recall past deliverance, current UNC, or tainty loses its grip. You did not survive everything you survived by accident. There were moments you should have broken, but grace held you together. That same grace is still active, still present, still powerful. There is a quiet confidence God wants to cultivate in you. Not arrogance, not loud declarations, but deep assurance. The kind that does not need constant validation. The kind that does not panic when things don't go as planned. The kind that knows God is at work even when evidence is not immediately visible. This confidence grows through repeated trust, not instant results. God is asking you to stay faithful, stay obedient, stay open. Even when boredom tries to creep in, even when frustration whispers that nothing is happening, even when impatience tempts you to force outcomes. Some of the most important work God does happens in seasons that look ordinary from the outside, but are transformative on the inside. There is also a call to humility in success when it comes. God is preparing you now so that when doors open, you remember who opened them. Pride can close doors faster than failure ever could. God is asking you to keep your heart teachable, your posture grateful, and your dependence on Him intact no matter how far you go. You are not walking this path alone even when it feels lonely. God's presence is not always loud, but it is always faithful. He is closer than your breath, more attentive than you realize, more invested in your growth than you agree. When He asks something of you, it is always connected to what He wants to give you, even if you cannot yet see the full picture forming. As this stirring continues, as this invitation deepens, as God keeps drawing your attention back to Himself, you may sense that what He is asking you to do immediately is not one dramatic action, but a series of faithful responses, small decisions layered with trust, moments of surrender that build momentum, choices that align your heart more closely with His, steps that feel simple on the surface but carry eternal weight beneath them. And it is in this unfolding obedience, this ongoing conversation between you and God, that the next phase begins to take shape. Not all at once, not with fireworks, but with a steady, unmistakable sense that He is leading, guiding, and continuing to ask for your yes as the journey moves forward. And as you remain in this posture of listening, you may start to realize that God is not only asking you to do something for Him, but to become someone with Him. Becoming always comes before doing. If the doing comes first, it burns you out. If the becoming comes first, the doing flows naturally. God is shaping your character so that what He releases through you does not collapse under pressure. He is far more interested in who you are becoming than in how fast you move. There are moments when you feel an internal tug of war, like part of you wants to step forward boldly while another part wants to retreat into what feels safe and familiar. That tension is not weakness, it is transformation and progress. Growth always challenges comfort. God is not condemning the part of you that hesitates, He is strengthening the part of you that believes. Over time, faith begins to outweigh fear, not because fear disappears, but because trust becomes stronger. God is also asking you to redefine what immediately means in the Spirit. Immediately does not always mean rushing or reacting impulsively. It means responding without resistance. It means when God nudges your heart, you don't argue yourself out of obedience. You don't delay with excuses. You don't wait until conditions are perfect. Immediate obedience is about the posture of your heart, not the speed of your feet. You have been given insight that others don't have. You see patterns, you sense undercurrents, you pick up on what's unspoken. This discernment is a gift, but it also comes with responsibility. God is asking you to steward what you see wisely. Not every insight needs to be shared. Not every battle needs to be fought publicly. Sometimes obedience looks like restraint, silence, and prayer instead of reaction. There is a refining happening in how you speak. Words you once used casually now feel heavy on your tongue. God is teaching you that your voice carries weight, both spiritually and emotionally. What you speak can build or tear down, heal or wound, align or distract. God is asking you to become more intentional with your word. Starting with how you speak about yourself, your future, and His work in your life, you may also notice that your tolerance for shallow connections is decreasing. Small talk exhausts you. Performative spirituality irritates you. You crave depth, authenticity, truth. This is not arrogance, it is hunger. God is deepening your appetite because He intends to feed you something richer. He is asking you to stop settling for spiritual snacks when He's inviting you to a full table. There are times when you feel misunderstood, even by people who love you. You struggle to explain what's happening inside because words fall short. That isolation can hurt, but it can also protect. God is forming something sacred within you, and not everyone has the language or capacity to understand it yet. He is asking you to trust Him enough to be okay with not being fully understood in this season. God is also asking you to confront fear honestly, not deny it, not spiritualize it away, but bring it into the light. Fear thrives in secrecy. When you acknowledge it before God, it loses its power. Fear often asks, what if I fail? Faith responds, what if God carries me? God is not asking you to be fearless, He is asking you to be faithful. You have been through cycles where things almost worked, where breakthrough felt close but slipped through your fingers. Those near misses were not to tease you or torment you. They trained your discernment. They sharpened your patience. They taught you what a ligament feels like and what it doesn't. God is asking you now to trust that nothing was wasted, not even the almosts. There's also a call to consistency. Not dramatic bursts of passion followed by burnout, but steady devotion. Consistency builds spiritual muscle. It doesn't feel glamorous, but it creates endurance. God is asking you to show up even when you don't feel inspired, to pray even when emotions are flat, to remain faithful even when results are delayed. This kind of faith moves mountains quietly. You may feel pulled to revisit old promises God gave you long ago, dreams you shelved, visions you stopped talking about because too much time passed. God is reminding you that His word does not expire. Delay does not mean denial. What He spoke still stands. God is asking you to dust off what you buried and bring it back into conversation with Him. There is a purification happening in your motives. God is gently exposing places where you sought validation instead of obedience, approval instead of alignment. This is not to shame you, but to free you. When your motives are pure, your actions are light. You stop striving to prove yourself and start resting in God's assignment. God is also asking you to trust Him with outcomes. You are responsible for obedience, not results. Results belong to God. When you take on responsibility that isn't yours, anxiety increases. When you release it back to Him, peace returns. God is teaching you to work diligently while resting internally, to labor without losing your soul. There is a quiet authority growing in you. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to defend it. It shows up in how you carry yourself, how you respond under pressure, how you remain grounded when others panic. Authority rooted in God does not shout, it stands. God is asking you to walk in that authority with humility and confidence intertwined. You may feel God nudging you to simplify, to remove excess, to declutter your life, your schedule, your mind. Simplicity creates space. Space allows clarity. Clarity strengthens obedience. God is not taking things away to punish you. He is removing distractions so you can focus on what truly matters. There's also an invitation to trust God with your pace. You don't need to hurry to prove anything. You don't need to slow down to please everyone. God's pace is sustainable. When you move with Him, you may appear slow to some and fast to others, but you will always be on time. God is asking you to stop measuring your life against external timelines. You are learning to recognize God's voice more clearly now. Not just in prayer, but in daily life, in the pause before a decision, in the discomfort that redirects you, in the peace that settles when you choose alignment. This sensitivity is cultivated, not accidental. God is asking you to trust this growing discernment and not second guess it away. There are moments when obedience feels costly, when saying yes to God means saying no to opportunities, relationships, or habits that once felt important. Sacrifice always precedes increase. God is not asking you to give up something without intention. He sees the exchange even when you don't. What you release makes room for what He is preparing. God is also asking you to remain teachable, even when you gain experience, even when you grow in wisdom. Pride closes ears, humility keeps them open. God often speaks through unexpected sources, simple moments, quiet impressions. Stay open, stay curious, stay grounded in the awareness that no matter how far you go, you still need Him for every step. You may feel drawn to serve in ways that don't bring recognition, to help without being seen, to give without being repaid. This desire reflects God's heart. He sees what is done in secret. He honors faithfulness that goes unnoticed by people. God is asking you to serve from overflow, not obligation, from love, not performance. There is a strengthening of boundaries happening. You are learning when to engage and when to step back, when to speak and when to remain silent. Boundaries are not walls, they are gates. They protect what God is building in you. God is asking you to guard your energy, your peace, and your focus with intention. You are also being invited into deeper trust during uncertainty. God does not always explain before He leads. Sometimes clarity comes through movement. As you obey, understanding follows. This requires courage because the mind prefers certainty. But faith thrives in trust. God is asking you to walk even when the map is incomplete. There is a sense that you are being repositioned. Internally first, externally later. God often shifts your heart before He shifts your circumstances. Pay attention to internal alignment. When your inner world changes, your outer world eventually follows. God is working from the inside out, layer by layer. You may notice an increased sensitivity to truth. Lies stand out more clearly. Half-truths feel uncomfortable. God is sharpening your discernment so you can navigate complex spaces without losing integrity. Truth anchors you when opinions shift and narratives change. God is asking you to stay rooted in what is eternal. As you continue responding, you may feel both stretched and strengthened, challenged and comforted, uncertain and deeply assured at the same time. This paradox is part of walking closely with God. He stretches you beyond yourself while anchoring you more firmly in Him. And as this process continues, as obedience becomes a lifestyle rather than a moment, as trust deepens beyond emotion into conviction, you may begin to sense that what God is asking you to do for Him immediately is unfolding step by step, breath by breath, choice by choice, drawing you further into alignment with His will, His timing, and His purpose, with more being revealed as you stay present, attentive, and willing to keep saying yes as the journey continues forward without yet reaching its final word. Chosen ones, as you stand at this moment, understand this clearly. God is not calling you to pressure, panic, or performance, but to partnership. What He is asking of you is born out of love, not demand, and rooted in purpose, not fear. Your yes does not need to be loud, perfect, or fully figured out. It only needs to be sincere. Heaven responds to willingness. Every step you take in obedience realigns you with grace already prepared for you. You are not stepping into the unknown alone. You are stepping into territory God has already gone before you to secure. Trust that His timing is intentional, His guidance is steady, and His presence is constant. As you continue forward, let faith lead where clarity has not yet arrived. Let obedience speak louder than hesitation, and let peace be your confirmation that you are exactly where you are meant to be, walking with God, responding to His call, and moving steadily into all that He has prepared for you.